Today I'm joined by Anjelika Reznik. Anjelika is rhythmic gymnast from Canada. Anjelika is Olympian 2012, bronze medalist at the Youth Olympic Games in 2010, and a five-time Pan Am Games medalist. Welcome, Anjelika.
Thank you for having me.
Anjelika, can you explain in a few words what your sport is about?
So, rhythmic gymnastics is a very unique sport. It incorporates apparatus work, which means the ball, ribbon, the hoop, the clubs, and the rope. And there's two different categories, the individuals and the group one. So, most of my athletic career, I did the group category, competing for Canada. So it consists from 5 to 6 gymnasts. So they compete at the same time. And individuals is a shorter program, and the group routine has a little bit more time and has 2 routines. So individual athlete would have 4 apparatuses that they would do, and the group would just have 2, but they would be a little longer as well. So it incorporates flexibility, elements, throws, catches. There's a dance component and a very big artistic expression. So you have to showcase your music, and you could do that through your leotard that you wear, your costume, your makeup, and the whole color scheme and the theme of your routine is also very important.
Okay, cool. And from my research, I found your last result was 2015, so you're not active anymore. That's what I can assume, right?
Yes and no. So I don't do rhythmic gymnastics anymore, but I do a slightly different sport called aesthetic group gymnastics. So this sport is not as popular as I think not many people know it. So it is not in the Olympic Games, but it does have world championships and world cups. So the main difference of it is it's actually quite similar to rhythmic gymnastics when it comes to the movement and the elements. So what's different about it, it is just has the group component, and you can have from 6 and up to 10 girls competing at the same time, and it doesn't have apparatus. So it's kind of like freehand. So here what's really, really important is kind of the dance aspect and then incorporating gymnastics into that. So it's actually a very good sport if rhythmic gymnastics can be very strenuous on the body because it does require extreme flexibility and longer hours in the gym. So with this sport, you could still continue training, but not as intensely. And the reason I like doing it is because I can still compete for Canada and travel the world.
And is that also the reason why you switched sports, that you can compete a bit longer than in the original sports that you competed in rhythm gymnastics?
Yeah, so that is the main reason. Because personally, in my situation, I started training at a very late age of 10 years old. So my theory is I'm just not sick of it yet. So I still want to train and compete and do gymnastics. And I don't really have an excuse not to do it, such as I'm not injured, I'm still in shape, and I still have the passion and drive for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the first question, which is, in your life as an athlete, what was your darkest moment?
Yeah, I thought about this one a lot. It was a little difficult to answer because I feel like personally I was just very lucky. I didn't have anything that was too dark, but when I'm trying to think of to give you an example, I would say so back in 2015 we were trying to qualify for the Rio Olympics, but we didn't. So that was a pretty sad moment, and the worst part of it is because we did work really hard, and our qualifications were the world championships, and we did really, really good routines. I'm really proud of my team. We gave it our all, but unfortunately, at the end of the day, our sport is based on judging, and it does come down to politics. So we just had to be first in our continent, and the American team beat us only by a little bit. Even though they did make mistakes, they slightly did get a higher score, which was unfair. And personally, I think we were on the same level, like skill-wise. So it was very disappointing. So I just learned that things are not fair in life, and you just gotta accept it because there's nothing you can't do to change it.
And how did you recover from that moment?
It was tough. I mean, for me, I already did compete at the Olympics, so I was like, okay, like at least I have that. But it was just a little more upsetting for the teammates who didn't get that chance to. So it would have been nice to give them that chance as well.
And you were the first team from Canada to qualify for the Olympics in 2012, right?
Yeah, so for the group category, so until me and my team showed up, Canada never represented a group in rhythmic gymnastics ever. And until now, we're the only ones. So I was really hoping that that would kind of set Canada on a path, but it is really, really challenging just because there's so many teams and so much competition, and again, politics.
What was your best moment?
So my best moment would probably when my team and I qualified for the 2012 London Olympic Games. So this happened in 2011 at the World Championships in France. But this is actually an interesting moment for me because so we have two routines that we perform, and I started out as a substitute. So this was my first year as a senior athlete. So before that, I was junior. So when you reach a certain age, you become a senior level. So I tried out for the Canadian national team for the group, and I made it. And usually the younger girls are the substitutes. So there was two of us, me and my other teammate actually from the Youth Olympic Games. So we were both the substitutes. And a month before the World Championships, one of my teammates ended up getting injured. And as a substitute, this means so since we have two routines, I compete only in one of them, and the other substitute competes in the other one. So we kind of alternate. But the other girls do both of the routines. So, but as a substitute, you have a really important role of if a gymnast gets injured, it's your job to know every part and be able to step in and substitute. So that's kind of the main reason. So that's what I had to do. Except in my case, it was a little bit more pressure. So I had to be put in a new routine that I've never competed in my life, that I just had to, well, I knew it, but it's different when you're practicing on your own on the side and when you're actually doing it with your team with music. So I only had a month to prepare with my team, and I did feel a lot of pressure. And my coach would have this notebook where she would write down the mistakes, and at the end of practice, you would work on whatever you need to work on, and in a certain amount of times you have to do each skills. And eventually the goal would be for no athlete to have any mistakes, so you can visually kind of see your progress. And I remember what really helped me to get through that moment is to look at that notebook at the end of the day and not see my name written down. And that would be my motivation to kind of not letting the team down, just because I did have this really huge disadvantage. And of course, like we all wanted to go to the Olympics, and I didn't want to be the person who kind of lets down the team, just because in a group atmosphere, if one person does a mistake, like the judges don't count it for everyone. So it's kind of very, very strict. So all 5 girls have to do it perfectly. And that's the really challenging part about group. So, well, luckily, I performed really, really well. And I was so glad that I didn't let my team down. It was mentally very, very hard for me. And I didn't even realize I was stressing out so much until it was over and the routine was over. And I knew that we did great. And I remember just like, I was crying. I couldn't believe it. And it was just this intense relief that it is over and we did good and made Canada proud. And I think that would be one of my best moments, and they were very, very memorable.
Cool. What do you think was the reason that you performed very well?
Well, personally, I think to have a successful performance is what you put in the gym, that's the kind of result you're going to get on the competition carpet. So for me, it comes down to hard work and consistency. If you keep making mistakes at training, you will make mistakes at competition. And that's the only way. It's kind of simple, but I really live by it, and it has been working for me.
Okay. And what did you learn from that best moment for the life following?
I learned that I'm stronger than I thought I was. Now looking back, I'm very proud of myself. And especially I was young. I think I was 15, 16 years old, and just mentally having to deal with that. Um, I guess, yeah, it was a useful skill because now to this day, I can proudly say that I've overcome this extreme obstacle.
Nice.
Mhm.
If you could go back in time 10, 15 years, what advice would you give a younger Anjelika?
Yeah, I also thought a while about this one. Um, I'm a very competitive person, so when I wouldn't win, I would get really, really upset. And I guess I would just tell myself, don't take your defeats kind of too personally or too seriously because they will happen a lot. And if you get so upset at every little setback that you get, you will have a tough time. So over the years, I'm trying to learn how to manage that. Of course, no one likes losing, but if you can't change the outcome, don't let it affect yourself too personally and kind of just move on and just hope next time it will get better.
I would think it's a balancing act between being ambitious and letting go, right?
Yeah, for sure. Especially in a sport where you're competing and in rhythmic gymnastics, every second counts. You have to throw, you gotta think. You can't let the pressure get to you, but at the same time, you can't be too nervous that you can't even compete or like you can't be shaking out at the carpet with your nerves. You also gotta learn how to relax. It's still a serious competition, but don't overdo it. Don't overstress it. Yeah, it is a quite challenging balance, and I think a lot of athletes do struggle with it.
Hmm. Okay. And I also read that you have a passion for youth sports and you want to give back to sports. Is that something related to your story and your past?
It is mostly related to. I realized that I do like public speaking a lot, and I especially love children. I love coaching children, mentoring them, inspiring them. And if public speaking is one way I could reach to them, not just through coaching and not just gymnasts, like other regular girls or boys who want to pursue like sports or anything in life, really, I would love to help them out in any ways that I can.
And how does it look? You go to clubs or to schools to speak?
Well, before I used to work with different programs, not so much anymore, just because I am um, living in Europe for a little bit, so it's a little hard just being away from Canada. But I did work with several programs such as Fast and Female. I'm not sure if you're aware of these programs, but some of them, especially Fast and Female, their target is inspiring young girls to stay active and healthy. So I would go to different schools and kind of present about this. And there's another one called Fit Spirit. And so I would go to different elementary schools as well, public speaking, empowering girls to stay active. And then at the end of the year, the organization organizes a big marathon where the girls could kind of learn the skills from the presentations and little workshops and put the skills to the test. So there's lots of different situations where I got to public speak. And sometimes the Canadian Olympic Committee contacts you, not as much anymore, but I did get this one really nice opportunity where I actually got to public speak at a citizenship ceremony. And me being myself, two-time like immigrant, it was actually a special moment for me, especially because when you're under 18 years old, you don't get to attend the ceremony. So I never got to attend it. But it was really nice to get that opportunity and see what it was really like and what my parents went through to give me this Canadian citizenship that lets me compete for Canada.
Yeah, that's an interesting one and it fits very well
Yeah.
here. You
Yeah.
said, or I've read, you're a two-time immigrant. You're originally from Kazakhstan. You
Yeah.
went to Israel and
Yes.
then to Canada.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you just outline the milestones? Or just, I mean, I'm genuinely interested in how did that go?
Well, so I was born in Kazakhstan. That's where my parents were born. But both of my parents are Russian. And when I was 2 years old, sorry, we immigrated to Israel. And that's mainly because it was post-Soviet Union. The life circumstances weren't that good. So my parents just wanted a better life for me and my twin sister. So me and my twin and my parents, we moved to Israel, and I lived there for 8 years. But then again, my parents decided to immigrate because even if you're a girl or a boy, once you turn 18 years old, you have to join the army. So my parents thought that was very dangerous, and it is, and I'm glad that they did that. So we immigrated to Canada, and ever since we've been there.
Okay. And then you immigrated by the age of 10, and you also said you took up sports by the age of 10. You started in Canada?
Yeah, so yeah, I think I was about 9 when we left Israel, and when we were 10 years old, my mom put me and my twin into rhythmic gymnastics. So actually, my mom did rhythmic gymnastics back in Kazakhstan when she was young, and she was very skeptical about putting me and my twin sister into rhythmic gymnastics. But it came to the point where my mom is like, "Well, you guys, you have too much free time. I want you like pick up a hobby, an after school activity, something you can do and keep busy." So my mom decided to put us into ballet. She was really worried that rhythmic gymnastics would be too strenuous, and she didn't want to kind of have that life on us. Just it is quite a difficult sport, especially on the body. So me and my twin, we thought ballet was a little boring. So and then she's like, okay, fine, try rhythmic gymnastics. And we went to training when we were 10, and we just never left the gym because we just fell in love with the sport.
Okay, that's awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
What are the habits that make you a successful person or athlete?
My habits. I think it would just be for me. I'm a competitive person, and I think that's what really drives me to want to reach this success. And especially in gymnastics, you have to work really, really hard, because without hard work, there's no way you're going to learn a skill. And especially not just learning a skill, but you got to have the consistency and the patience to keep practicing the skill until it's perfected. And I think in life, this is also very, very helpful, because you can't just give up. You got to always be motivated, and no one's going to do it for you. You just got to like find the energy inside yourself and just push yourself. So yeah, it comes down to hard work. And I think also when I was a gymnast, I also was a full-time student. So time management was really key. It was really, really hard at times. And I chose the path of even I was training and attending university. I didn't want to take time off like most students do, or be a part-time student. I decided to really just get to it, finish school, but still be able to compete at a high level. And I'm proud that I've accomplished this. It's not something easy, but I'm glad I graduated school and managed to accomplish that.
Yeah. I've written that actually down as a later question, that you did rhythmic gymnastics, which is, to the best of my knowledge, very labor work training intensive in terms of hours.
Yeah.
Because also there's a lot of rehearsing and stuff like it going in, right?
Yeah.
And you studied politics and governance and completed with a bachelor degree.
Yeah.
So how did you, I mean, you just mentioned a little bit on that, but how did you balance it? In the morning you went to university, and then in the afternoon training?
Yeah, so pretty much most of my life, the way it worked is you go to school, whatever, 8, 9 a.m., you finish school at 3 or 4, and then from whatever time you have left from school, you're at the gym. And then between after training and sleep, you gotta find time to squeeze in homework. And that was pretty much my life for many, many years. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Coming back to the habits that make you successful, I've also something that caught my interest. You have written in your LinkedIn profile, being a two-time immigrant, I have very ambitious goals to take advantage of the great opportunity Canada has to offer. Can you elaborate on that?
Okay. Um, I think Canada does have a lot of opportunities to offer, especially because I feel like there's movement where kind of there's organizations trying to help those who need the help, like the organizations I were working with. So girls in sport, the youth. I think these are different opportunities that I could be part of and participate. And I think they're crucial because especially the children, they're the future of our world. If we don't spend time with them, inspiring them, then our future is not going to be inspired. We're not going to see as much results. And especially kids love when athletes or their mentors can take the time to talk to them. It's just inspirational. Personally, I think if I had that growing up, it would have been very useful to me now.
And then, sorry to dig a little bit deeper into that, the connection between a two-time immigrant and being very ambitious. How do you see that?
So I think with immigration, there comes with that drive for a better life. And I think personally, my parents would have done or still do anything to give me and all my siblings the best life that they could offer. And I think it really rubs off on the children, or especially me, that I would want to do the same. I want to kind of continue what they started, find the best opportunities for myself and even for my kids, provide them everything I could, just the best living standards. I think that would lead to achieving the best results and the best version of yourself.
Okay, that's cool. Thanks for the answer. Do you have a morning routine?
That one made me laugh because I'm not a morning person. So usually I would try to just sleep as much as I can. And then in the last moment, quickly dress, eat breakfast, and head out the door and just go to school or the gym. One thing I remember of just being an athlete is the lack of sleep. So you wouldn't catch me usually waking up early in the morning to do something just because I would be like, sleep, I need it. Even to this day, it hasn't changed.
It's actually not that uncommon. I've interviewed quite a few people who say they are not morning persons. I mean, who comes to my mind? Christian Taylor, the triple jumper, or double Olympic champion. Celeste, the volleyball player. One of my athletes, Niki Man. So there are quite few who say they are not morning persons. So nothing to laugh about. How do you prepare for important moments?
Well, I don't have anything specific, but as I said again, training is key. If you don't practice well, you won't have the success that you want. And later on in my life, I realized that also a proper diet is really important. So being young, I never really took it seriously or thought about it, but now that I'm older, I can do my own research. I do think that's also very important. And now I do eat much healthier, and I think it does make a difference in my performances. And also, I think in general, just having a positive attitude, positive thoughts, and especially being in a group, a team sport, when somebody is feeling down or tired, it really does affect everybody around them. So when I was a gymnast, I was in a team. When I was older, if I see someone being really tired, feeling down, I would try to motivate them because at the end of the day, if that one person keeps making mistakes in the routine, we're not gonna get to go home. So we either had to do clean, like the coach wouldn't really have mercy on us. So we had to figure out ways to really bring ourselves together and have positive thoughts and be determined that we couldn't do a clean routine. We can, we just have to have the right mental state for it.
And you said a positive attitude and positive thoughts. So I think it's very normal for every human being that at some point negative thoughts are creeping in your mind. How do you
Yes.
stay positive?
Um, that's a good question. But back then, I used to meditate a lot. So it's kind of difficult to answer because it's the way you look at things. For example, you're 8 hours in the gym. It's 40 degrees outside. We don't have air conditioning. It's hot. You could either cry about it and keep on making mistakes, or you could look at the situation, be like, okay, well, I only have one routine to go. I can do this clean. For example, we're in Spain and I'll get to go to the beach. Just kind of find a way to change your thinking, just like motivate others. And for me, that's worked. For others, I try to teach them how to do that. It took a while, but I think they also understood that eventually, which did help us get through the tough days of trainings for sure.
Cool. How do you overcome setbacks?
How do I? Um, it is challenging. Just I think it comes down to the way you react to the setbacks. Um, I think you just kind of gotta think about it, analyze the situation, see what you could have done better, how you could have changed it. If it's out of your control, then don't really get too bothered by it and just kind of move on, basically. I know it's difficult sometimes, but you just kind of assess the situation, see if you can change yourself, change something. But if you can't, don't get caught up with it and just kind of move on and make sure either it doesn't happen again, or if it does, how would you change to how you react to it, or if you'll do the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, really good. I think that was a really good answer. Who's your role model and why?
I actually get this question a lot, and then I don't know why I'm that type of person that I just never really had a role model. But when I was little, I did go on the internet. I would look up the older girls that are competing internationally for other countries, and I would look at their routines. And of course, I was really fascinated by it because they were doing things that I never even dreamed of or like knew existed. So it was very interesting because it was a little learning lesson. So I would look at it and try to see, oh, okay, this is what I'm supposed to look like. This is how proper technique looks like. And in my sport, the Russians are very, very dominant. So almost if you Google any Russian gymnast and you watch their video, they're just amazing. To them, the sport is, if you're a little girl at some point of your life, you did do rhythmic gymnastics. That's how popular it is because they just achieve such great results. So to me, looking at their choreographies, how they train, how they do their warm-ups, I would try to watch their interviews to see, oh, like how do they think? What is like a typical day for them? So to me, that was what I would look up to.
What is the best advice you received and who gave it to you?
So I think it would be my coach, and she would repeat this a lot. And she would say, if you're not going to work hard in the gym, you won't get success. And as you could probably tell, I did say that a lot. So it did really rub off on me. And I do think it is very, very true, especially speaking from personal experience. Because I think if I didn't have this drive to work hard, I would not be where I am today. I would not achieve any of the results. And taking this to outside of the gym, everything I do, I try to give it all my all. So I wouldn't, if I'm doing like an assignment, I wouldn't just do, oh, just kind of lazy half work. I would give it my all. I would try my best. I would try to get the best grade that I could. And I think it just comes down to like work hard no matter what you do, and then you will see results.
And when did this switch happen? You said initially there was not that drive for, let's say, excellence or to put the hard work in. And now you say that's something you truly believe in and something you practice. At what age did that happen, or any event in time that triggered this?
Now that I think about it, I think I personally had it inside me ever since I started gymnastics. I think that's how I did achieve the results so quickly because in the beginning I didn't have that coach. I only started training with her when I was 13 years old. But to get from that point where I was started training at 10 years old, and when I was 13 years old, I competed at the Youth Olympics in Singapore and won a medal for Canada, which was insane because my competitors were girls who've been doing gymnastics for many, many more years than me. So I had this quickly kind of learn everything and try to literally be at the same level as them, even though I had this huge disadvantage. And the fact that I was able to achieve this is like mind blowing to me right now. But I think I always had that inside me, but my coach kind of repeating it made me realize it. So, for example, if I was struggling, maybe before I didn't know this, the fact that if you work hard, you'll achieve results. Like maybe if I had a point in my training career where I did struggle, I would repeat to myself, oh, maybe if I just keep working hard, I will get the result. And my coach would repeat that, and that would actually motivate me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And your coach, just out of interest, was it more kind of a directive, you have to work hard, or was it more kind of a motivational style?
Well, we did have Russian coaches, so they're a little more direct and stricter. So I realized that for me, the strict approach does work better. I'm not sure why. Maybe because I'm also Russian and I could just relate. I don't know. But I did like her coaching style. She would just say it as it is, and she wouldn't be around the bush. She will tell you what she wants. She will tell you if she's upset and who needs to fix something. Some coaches keep it very general. Sometimes you have to go up to the person, you have to say the name and be like, listen, you need to fix this. Like the judges are not going to count it. In that case, she was really, really good. And sometimes coaches try to be nice, keep it very general. And in a group setting, if you don't call out a name personally, they not always think that they're the ones making the mistake, just maybe because they don't notice, they're not paying attention. So I think sometimes the strict, more direct approach does help in the long run.
How does a typical training day look like?
Okay, so well, it depends. So if I would have school in the morning, so we would have a training for about 4 hours, and we would train 6 times a week with Sundays off. And then if we didn't have school, for example, a training camp, we would train 80 hours a day, 6 times a week. So those
How
were
many hours? What did you just say?
8 hours a day, six
8
times
hours
a
a
week.
day.
Yeah. So we do 4 hours lunch break and then like 4 hours. So those were definitely the tougher days. So usually the way our training starts is for about 1 hour, we have kind of like a warm up, but this includes a lot of things. So this would include a warm up on the floor where we incorporate stretching and conditioning. And then we go do over splits, we do kicks together, and then we would do lines. And lines, which is basically you go across the carpet doing either jumps, balances, or different skills. And then after that, you would get your apparatus and you would warm up with the apparatus. So in the group, you have exchanges where you throw the apparatus to each other. So we would have a certain amount of them. And so we would practice each exchange, I don't know, maybe 5 times clean. And then we could keep doing it until you achieve a clean exchange. And then we would go to collaborations. And collaborations is when we collaborate together, either throwing or doing skills interchanging. So we would do that several times. And then after we complete that, we would start doing routines with music. So sometimes we can start with just parts. So we divide the routine into 2 or 3 and work on perfecting the parts. And then towards the end, we would do the full routine. And then the practice would consist of our coach would be like, okay, I want to see 5 clean routines. And we would do kind of as many routines it takes to achieve these like 5 clean routines. But it all depends on the point of where we are at our training. So before competition, obviously she wants to see more clean routines, but if it's a new routine, they're not as strict. She'll be like, okay, maybe 1 clean routine. So it all depends. And then at the end, we would do conditioning sometimes if we have time or if we're not too dead. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Um, I have an extra question. You already mentioned your twin sister,
Yes.
and you also, both of you competed in the same sport. And from
Yes.
what I've seen, is you seem to be a bit more successful than her in terms of results. Is it kind of a rivalry, or you support each other?
No, we actually support each other. Yeah, some might think, I mean, we do fight and bicker, but when it comes down to competitions, we obviously want both of us to do the best as we can. So we started out training together and we did individuals separately. And at first, we would kind of interchange podiums. So I get first, you get first, and we keep interchanging. And then the following year, my mom said, okay, I'll put them in different levels. So we started out in provincials. So in provincials, it's possible to kind of change up the levels. So she was in another level, so she could win her own category. I was in a different level, so I could win my own category. So we kind of did that, which was kind of nice. So we weren't even competing against each other. But then we decided to try for the junior group to represent Canada at the Youth Olympics, and her and I both made it. So we're actually on the same team together, which was really nice. But right after that ended, we were senior level and we had to try out for the senior team. So unfortunately, she didn't make that team, and I did. So while I was training for those 2 years, she kind of did her own thing. She did individuals, but then she did even retire for a little bit, but then she came back to it. So as soon as I finished competing with the Olympics, we both tried out again for the group. So every year you basically have to retry out. So even though I went to the Olympics, I still had to try out. So she tried out as well and she made it. So again, we were reunited, we were competing together. So we competed together for about 2 more years as senior athletes. And that's when we competed at the 2015 Pan American Games together and got 2 bronze medals. And then after that, we both decided to do individuals for 1 year. So just kind of to like finish off and like the way we started doing individuals, finish with individuals. And then from there, we joined the aesthetic group gymnastics because like, okay, well, don't really want to retire, but I still kind of want to compete. So that's what we do now.
Do you want to nominate someone to be interviewed?
I was thinking, how do you feel about artistic gymnasts? Because you wrote that you wanted someone from a different sport.
Well, I'm open to anything. I mean,
Okay, well, I know a bunch of rhythmic gymnasts.
let's put it like this. I have certainly no objections against a rhythmic gymnasts. What I meant is also what I said earlier. I had friends in school who did it, female friends, and I know it's a difficult sport, especially when it comes to the time you have to put in and the physical demands you have to go through. So I'm definitely open to anything with artistic gymnastics.
Yeah, because I do know 2 girls personally that competed at the London Olympic Games for artistic gymnastics, and one of them also competed for Rio Olympics. So
That
I
would be
could
cool.
know them.
What are their names?
Oh, Victoria Morse and Ellie Black. So I don't know if they're available to do this, but maybe if one of them accepts.
If you can make an introduction, we can see how it turns out.
Okay, sure, I can do that.
Cool. Where can people find you?
Well, I have Instagram, and my Instagram name is TwinnyRez, but it's TWINYREZ.
I link
And
that
also,
up. Don't worry. I make sure that's going to be spelled correctly and linked to.
okay, I also have Snapchat, I have LinkedIn, and also my aesthetic group gymnastics team has their own Instagram page that I also help run and kind of post. So that would be nice.
Okay, cool. And you said you like public speaking. Is that something you want to get into and you want to do more of that?
Yeah, I actually do, which is surprisingly because when I was younger, I hated public speaking. I was terrified. But I think the main reason for that was that language barrier because English is not my native language. And just having to speak in front of people who you're not very comfortable in speaking English was a little scary. But now that my English is obviously better, and at Ryerson, I did take several professional communication courses, a whole course on presentations. I learned a lot. I definitely got more comfortable through practicing there, and I have worked with many different organizations and companies. And I realized, yes, I do enjoy it, and I think it's hard for many people. So the fact that I like it, I think means a lot.
So if someone wanted to hire you for some public speaking gig, where should they go to?
Well, you could message me in any of my social media, or I do have an email or my phone number.
Okay. Okay. And you said you are in Europe currently. Is that private or business?
No, it's private. It's like my boyfriend is studying there, so I'm with him here right now.
Okay, cool. Anjelika, thank you for your time. I really enjoyed this one.
No problem. Thanks for having me.